Percentages are not a part of ancient Greek impressive mathematics, but they are essential in the modern world of attending meetings wearing grey suits and being sad. The most important part of the entire percentages topic is clearly finding percentages of amounts. If you're someone with no interest in maths, the kind of person I'll often refer to as just the worst, you will want to use a calculator to do this. Percent means out of 100. That means that any percentage you get can be easily converted into a fraction using this logic. For example, 50% means 50 out of 100. This fraction can be cancelled out to make a half, and 67% means 67 out of 100, which is already in its simplest form. To find the percentage of any amount, we multiply this amount by the fraction relative to the percentage we're trying to find. That's an example of a sentence that won't help anyone. What will help everyone though is examples. If we're finding 50% of 142, we do 50 over 100, or a half times 142, giving us an answer of 71. This makes sense as 50% means half, so this question essentially means find a half of 142. If we're looking at a more complicated example and finding 12.5% of 69,190 rest of the number, we can do 12.5 over 100, or 125 over 1,000, times 69,000 whatever I said, to get an answer of this. Wow. If you though consider yourself a cool kid, you can jump straight to the more complicated idea of using decimals instead of these fractions. Once you get used to this, it becomes much faster and much easier. If we want to find 100% of a number, we can times it by 1, as 100% means the full amount. If we want to find 10%, we times it by 10 out of 100, also known as a tenth, also known as 0.1. Through several examples of converting these fractions into their decimals, you can see how a percentage we're trying to find can be easily converted into the decimal we have to times the amount by. If we're finding 50% of 250, we do 0.5 times 250, as 0.5 means a half. 12% of 200 can also be done with 0.12 times 200. You can see from these two examples that the numbers we're using have the exact same digits, it's just the decimal place has been switched 2 places. This logic follows in more complicated questions, such as if we want to find 0.6% of 60, we can do 0.006 times 60. Whilst 0.6 is a very small amount, you must always follow the same logic of moving the decimal place 2 times. If we want to find 197% of 206, we do 1.97 times 206. This does mean that the number's going to get bigger, but 197% means nearly double of the original amount, as 100% is what we started with. This is how to find percentages with a calculator. Quick, easy, and actually a little bit tedious. If you want real fun, then grab your calculator and throw it right in the bin. But don't do that. These cost $7.99 and that's not really worth it, to be honest. $7.99 for spongy buttons and a layout that just makes children sad. Finding percentages without a calculator though is really what sorts the men from the other more intelligent men, I think. If I told you to find 17.5% of 290, you would say, well, probably nothing, because who talks to a screen? But you would find that quite hard as you leap toward your calculator for the fear of doing maths for just fun. Because who does that? Nobody that I know, no one does. There are certain percentages though that are much easier to find than others, which can then be combined to make more complicated percentages. 50% is always really easy to find as you just half the original 100%. Similarly, to find 10% of 290, we divide the original 100% by 10 to get 29. 10% can then be halved to get us 5%, giving us 29 over 2, which is 14.5, and halving 5% then gives us 2.5%, which is 7.25. The big shocking, amazing reveal expose is that you can then add 10% plus 5% plus 2.5% to give you the desired 17.5%. In terms of our amount, this is 29 plus 14.5 plus 7.25, giving us an answer of 50.75. One thing to always keep in mind in these kinds of questions is whether you're talking about the number as in the percentage or the number as in the amounts that you're talking about. It helps to always include symbols such as the percentage symbol or whatever units you're talking about of the amount, just to keep track of what your numbers mean. The first step in any of these kinds of questions is always splitting up the percentage you're trying to find into more easier, manageable, smaller percentages. This is a matter of opinion, but do try and make sure that your opinion is not a bad one. Finding 66.3% of 80 seems very hard at first, but once you see that 66.3 equals 50 plus 10 plus 5 plus 1 plus 0.1 plus 0.1 plus 0.1, That should put a big smile on your face, because that's just so easy looking. This is, though, the first step in finding an answer. 50% is easily found, as it's just half of the original 80, being 40. 10% is 1/10 of the original value, being 8. 5% is then half of 10%, making 4. And 1% is 1/10 of the 10% that we found, giving us 0.8. If we want 0.1%, we do 1/10 of the 1%, giving us 0.08. We can then add 50% plus 10% plus 5% plus 1%, etc., being the values of 40 plus 8 plus 4 plus 0.8 plus the rest, giving us a final answer of 53.04. This is how to find percentages both with and without a calculator. If you're interested in more complicated questions, then do a subscribe for another video, which is going to be even more similar to this one. Just same sort of thing. Yeah.